Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss just one topic, just one short but very interesting topic. We're going to talk about the situation in the Zaporizhia direction, where the Russians, according to information we have, are about to begin their major offensive operation in the direction of the city by the name of Zaporizhia. And as we may know, the Russians probably are tasked to establish complete control over the settlement, probably during the 2026. But we will not discuss tactics and different things what the Russians are able to do or not. They will discuss the changes on the ground that we've received since the end of the 27th of May of 2026, and we will discuss this map that was published by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. So this morning, on the 28th of May of 2026, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation leaked a map related to the area of responsibilities of the group of forces Dnipro. So we have a lot of very interesting details about the situation. So this is the map that was published by Russians today, but the first and the most important thing is that this map was published today, but this map, according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, shows the situation by 8 p.m. of the 9th of April of 2026, so more than a month and a half ago. So right now in front of your screens you can see the situation that was through the Dnipro, through the western and central Zaporizhia direction, through the area of responsibilities of the group of forces Dnipro by the end of the 9th of April of 2026. So of course, probably for now this situation, this map is not relevant, but this map leaks lots of very interesting updates and lots of very interesting details that we've missed since the beginning of April of 2026. So once again, this is the map, and let's try to add as many as possible things, as many as possible differences that we have. For example, with the military summary map that you can see also in front of your screens. The most important and the most interesting area, of course, is the territory between the cities of Orikhiv and Takmachka. So we have railways. So as you can see, let's zoom in a bit. So this line is railways, and as you can see, according to this map, according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, by the beginning or by the end of the 9th of April of 2026, the Russians had already established control over the southern parts of the city of Orikhiv. So according to this map that was published today by the Minister of Defense, the Russians by the end of the 9th of April had controlled probably more than or up to 40 or even more percent of the city of Orikhiv. Now let's return back to the map and we will understand what are the differences. So this is the situation right now in front of your screens. You can see, and according to the map that was leaked by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, by the end of the 9th of April of 2026, the Russians controlled something like this. So these territories between the city of Orikhiv, between the city of Novodanilovka, Nesteryanka, Takmachka, Novopokrovka, all these territories, according to the map that was published by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, was captured by Russians during the Orikhiv offensive operation. So this is the first interesting thing that was published this morning by the Minister of Defense. Another important thing is the situation, of course, through the western Zaporizhia direction. We are talking about the territory between the cities or villages of Grigorovka and Stepnogorsk. As you can see, as of the current situation, all these territories are, almost all these territories are colored in yellow color, which means that all these territories are under strong control of the armed forces of Ukraine. But as of the 9th of April of 2026, according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, all these territories were under complete Russian control. So now let's add the gap, let's add these changes to the map, and then we will understand better what exactly is happening. So these are the territories that were, according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, by the end of the 9th of April of 2026, under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. And as you can see, all these territories, and this is a very big gap First of all, there are lots of territories, as you can see, under complete Russian control, but now we see that all these territories are colored in yellow color, which means that the Ukrainians have strong control. So what did happen in this area, and let's discuss this in detail. So once again, this is the map that was published by pro-Russian sources today about the situation the 9th of April, and this is basically the situation that we can see right now in front, let's say, along the line of combat contact. First, let's try to upload the map. Let's load the data of the map on the 9th of April of 2026. So this is the 9th of April according to the military summary map, and as you can see, as for the Orikhiv direction, we have no changes. So basically we haven't been receiving anything from this area probably since the beginning of this year, but the Russians are saying that all these territories were under complete control of Russians. But as for the western Zaporizhia direction, we see that we have changes. For example, this is the black area that we have added this morning, right now in front of your screens, and these territories show basically the Russian territories, the territories under Russian control by the 9th of April. But as for the military summary map, we have that only probably 40%, so maybe even 30% of these territories were under control of Russians, according to geolocations, according to different reports, according to different videos, and so on. So what did happen? I would like to remind you that starting on the 30th of April of 2026 or something like this, the Ukrainians began their major counter-offensive operation through the Zaporizhia area, and as a result of this counter-offensive operation, the armed forces of Ukraine during the May of 2026 managed to establish almost complete control over the western Zaporizhia direction and to force the Russians of the group of forces Dnipro to fall back from the territories along the river of Konska further in the southern direction towards the city of Stepnogorsk. Of course, it would be very interesting to see the map of the 26th or 27th of May of 2026 published by Russians, but for some reason they decided not to publish any map about the situation, any map that shows the current situation on the ground. But one thing is clear, that something is happening currently through the Zaporizhia direction. So this is the situation, for example, by the beginning of the 28th of May of 2026, and according to the latest changes that we received during the previous 12 hours, the Ukrainians once again managed to improve their positions, and as of the beginning of the 28th of May of 2026, the armed forces of Ukraine continue their counter-offensive operation, and currently the Ukrainians approach the settlements of Plavny, Kamenska from the north and from the northeast. So all these things published by pro-Russians, basically leaked by pro-Russian sources and published by pro-Ukrainian sources, are telling us just about one thing, that during the April and during the May of 2026, the armed forces of Ukraine launched the major Zaporizhia counter-offensive operation, and as a result of this counter-offensive operation, the armed forces of Ukraine managed to recapture and to restore complete control almost over the entire western Zaporizhia direction. The group of forces Dnipro was forced to fall back from positions around the city of Stepnogorsk and along the river of Konska, and now the Russians are trying to regroup in the area of Kamenska and Stepnogorsk with the purpose to repel possible attacks that Ukrainians will continue. But at the same time, we haven't received almost anything from the city of Orikhiv, which means that maybe there are very high chances that indeed the southern parts of the city of Orikhiv is under complete Russian control and that the clashes for the settlement continues. Anyway, let's wait and see what is going to happen next. And meanwhile, according to information we have, the Russians continue their offensive operation through the eastern Zaporizhia flank, through the eastern Zaporizhia direction. I would like to remind you that yesterday pro-Russian sources of the group of forces East published lots of updates about the situation in this area, and we have already discussed this video where, according to information we have, the Russians, as a result of clashes, established complete control over the settlement of Vozdvyzhevka. We have already discussed this video during the previous update, and we have lots of videos with lots of flags published by Russians. By the way, yesterday in the evening, pro-Ukrainian sources were trying to publish their own video showing that Ukrainians were ruining all these Russian flags, but later it was discovered that the pro-Ukrainian video about the situation in Vozdvyzhevka Vozdvyzhevka was made more than 2 weeks ago. So which means that the Ukrainians published a video trying to stabilize the situation and to get immediate victory, but basically they probably made even worse than we have right now. Another important thing that several pro-Russian sources also clarified the situation on the ground, and according to these reports, the Russians also improved their positions around the settlement of Rozdvyanka. As for the settlement of Rozdvyanka itself, I would like to remind you that this village was the first village that was captured by Russians along the line between the villages of Gulyai-Polska, Verkhnya Tersa, Vozdvyzhevka and Rozdvyanka, but later pro-Ukrainian sources reported that they managed to counterattack and to recapture the settlement, but yet, since the beginning of Ukraine's counter-offensive operation, we haven't received anything that can confirm that Ukrainians indeed managed to recapture the settlement, but let's wait and see. Obviously, the Russians will publish additional videos that will show us that indeed the settlement is under complete Russian control, and basically we can say that if these things, of all these updates are correct about the situation on the western, southern and the eastern parts of the Zaporizhia direction, one thing is clear, that the eastern front line, the eastern defenses of the armed forces of Ukraine have collapsed completely. As for the western direction, the Ukrainians probably gained initiative and continue improving their positions. But as for the central part, we see that most likely the defenses of Orikhiv also collapsing, and most likely in coming days, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm or will report about complete control over the city, and then the map would be adjusted once again. This map, when the Russians controlled probably 30 or 40% of the city of Orikhiv to the south, everything to the south of railways, was published on the 9th of April of 2026. A month and a half have passed since this situation was announced, since this report was since the map was relevant, which means that maybe during these months and a half the Russians managed to improve their positions even further, which means that in coming days the Ministry of Defense may report about the situation. So this is the reason that why the Russians published the map of the 9th of April, because of course they published this map for a reason. And the most important goal of the Ministry of Defense was to show that up to 50% of Orikhiv was already under Russian control, which means that in coming days the Russians may announce complete control over the settlement. Anyway, let's wait and see what is going to happen next, but one thing is clear, the Zaporizhia front line collapses. As the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, sent a letter to the President of the United States of America asking for more missiles. And you know that today another important thing happened. For some reason, Kaja Kallas said that U.S. embassy left Kyiv. The U.S. embassy is leaving Kyiv after Russia's warning. According to Kallas, all European embassies will continue to operate in the Ukrainian capital, the head of European diplomacy said at a meeting in Cyprus. Earlier, the Russian foreign ministry announced the beginning of systematic strikes against targets in Kyiv, operating in the interests of the Ukraine armed forces. Right after Kaja Kallas reported about the U.S. embassy on the territory of Kyiv, the U.S. embassy published a report that they're not going to go anywhere, but probably they're just trying to stabilize the situation and not to create unnecessary panic, because obviously everybody must understand that if the United States of America announced the evacuation of their embassy from the territory of the city of Kyiv, then millions of Ukrainians, millions of civilians, millions of people of the city of Kyiv will do the same, because the United States of America is the most important flag about the situation, because if they evacuate the embassy, then most likely everybody will do this and will follow this example. And that's it about the short video. Once again, during the next update, we will discuss Konstantinovka, northern direction, political updates, but as of this video, we've done. And that's it for the short video. The Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.